Hello? Oh, shit. All right. Thanks.
I wonder who I'll see this time. Just to touch the water and swing through the trees. Home is at memory away. Take me home. Take me home. Take me home. Take me home. Come to think of it, I've never felt so free. My tunes are a blaring, consuming that mountain breeze. Makes me so grateful to be alive. Home is a memory away. Take me home. Take me home. Take me home. Please take me home. Come on. Please take me home. Please take me closing sale, everything must go, nothing left behind, no wild oats to sow. So out of my way, I'm done now, you see. You took the meat, but not my bones. Now throw away your key. One foot out the door, persistent. You are frozen in time. Oh, I love you slips out of my mind. So sail, set sail, a little bird. Just go and set sail. Set sail, set sail, a little bird. Just go and set sail. I'll take my ship away as the storm rolls in. I hope the wind is with me.
We need to be able to have conversations without feeling like we're going to say something that gets us thrown in jail because people happen to be offended.
Skepticism, skepticism, do you know what you believe? What you believe? What you believe? What you believe?
All right, guys, finally, we are live. Wow. Okay. We are using this Skype line for this. By the way, welcome to the first episode. The first episode of Test Your Skepticism. Test your skepticism. What does that mean? Well, I think skepticism should relate to everything in your life. There's a way to use skepticism while assessing your own emotional knee-jerk reactions to things, even how you interact with everything, really everything in existence. The lines are now open. We've been getting a lot of pre-show calls, and I've kind of been picking up and just saying, yeah, we're not quite ready yet, but we are going to have a better system to hold calls and screen calls and things like that. But yeah, the lines are now open. Feel free to call in. I do have a holding system that we can use. You can also use StreamYard. So here's the StreamYard link for any of you who are on your computer, and you can wait in the room in StreamYard, and I can bring you in. So and I'll just talk a little bit here. So I put a few. Okay, we got a call coming. Hey, this is Test Your Skepticism. How's it going?
Oh, this is the show?
Hey, yeah, you're on the air.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I read the title. It was, like, saying Trump is racist.
So
I definitely agree with that.
you think Trump is racist?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your evidence for that?
Well, essentially, the way he's conducted all his business dealings, like, he would actually, like, work with father and, like, kind of discriminate against, like minorities and his properties and everything.
No, so let's fact check that a little bit. So Donald Trump has a bunch of managers who manage his property, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if a manager makes some kind of racist policy or acts in some kind of racist way, and then Donald Trump gets asked about it, and he says, "Yeah, under no circumstances is racism acceptable within my company." Why do you think that makes him racist?
Well, I mean, you didn't oversee that, like, in his own company?
No, he didn't oversee racism. There's no evidence of that. There's evidence there's evidence that there may have been some management systems that they were kind of shying away, which they shouldn't have been, from black people wanting to rent. If there is in fact evidence of that, that does not make Trump a racist.
But he is overseeing that essentially happening.
Right. So if he is at the top of a company, if he is overseeing what's going on, then wait. In a Playboy interview in 1999, Trump said, "Laziness is a trait in blacks." I want to look up this quote just while you're on the air. By the way, feel free to tell me your name if you wish.
Yes, I'm Ryan.
Ryan. Okay, cool. I'm just going to look up this laziness is a trait in blacks. We're going to go to Snopes. Snopes is a great website, by the way, guys, just to fact check things, but don't take it as your absolute source. But as a skeptic, you can use other sources to help get things. So Trump say laziness is a trait in blacks. No black president again anytime soon, quote. A meme created the impression that Donald Trump claimed that there wouldn't be a black president again anytime soon because laziness is a trait in blacks. So let's see what Snopes has to say. Donald Trump said laziness is a trait in blacks. I believe that no black person will be president again anytime soon. So that's the claim. And then what's true is Donald Trump once tweeted, sadly, because President Obama has done such a poor job as president, you won't see another black president for generations, exclamation mark. So what's false? Trump did not utter the full statement, laziness is a trait in blacks. I believe that no black person will be president ever again. So that is all false. Whoever just posted that in the chat, fail, Jack Henry. You fail.
Wait, that's not my evidence, though.
No, I know. I was responding to someone by the name of Jack Annery in the chat. Yeah. So So yeah,
Also,
so what else would you say? Because I think what you've provided so far is easily eradicated by saying, okay, unless you have direct evidence that Donald Trump gave this directive to his staff at that time, saying this, which there isn't any evidence of that, by the way. If there was evidence of that, just think of how often that would be played and referenced on mainstream media. It's a good starting point. That doesn't mean there could be a conspiracy with mainstream media where they're trying to make Trump look good by not bringing that evidence up, but it just doesn't exist, right?
well, I mean, like even if we're not saying that, I mean, okay, how about this? Like, Trump can like come up with like names. Like if he wants to call someone something, he's gonna use a name. I mean, that's kind of like a slick thing with
like
Trump,
Sleepy Joe.
Yeah. And actually, I was kind of like bash Joe Biden in a second. Like, I think he's actually like a sexual predator and everything. Like, I want to like bash Joe Biden like, right after this. I don't know, but like another thing about Trump was that he was in the debate. Like, he's very quick with like names, but why would he need to ask Chris Wallace what name to condemn the KKK? Like, wasn't he obviously buffering there? And it's like everything.
No. So here's how I read that. I think someone who's looking from a confirmation bias perspective, they'll be like, "Oh my God, he won't condemn white supremacy." But really, like, I shared a video. Go to the Daily Wire website. Or YouTube channel where they actually posted a video with him denouncing the KKK and any radical hate group, white supremacy, all these things, multiple occasions, and he keeps getting asked it by the media. And what I saw him doing in his response was kind of a bit of a trolling and asking like, well, what do you want me to say? Like, and he wasn't given a ton of time. So and just because he didn't want to be compelled to say a certain thing or forced to say a certain thing by this person, it doesn't mean that makes him a racist.
Wait, what would make someone a racist? I'm just curious.
What would make someone a racist? If they said, "I'm going to hunt." If let's say you're a white guy, you're a white police officer, and you say, "I can't wait to shoot the next nigger I see." That would make you a racist. What's that?
So you have to say those exact words, or it's not racist?
No, that would be an example of racism. Or if someone says, here's another example. If someone says, "Oh, sorry, man, I heard you had to shoot someone in the line of duty the other day and execute them. That's too bad." And then if the guy responds by whispering to him, "Yeah, but he was black, so who cares?" That would be evidence of racism. Because we all have internal racisms, right? They exist for good survival evolutionary purposes. Because back in a very long time ago, if you see a tribe that looks different than you, there is this, different things are not good from a survival perspective because you don't know any kind of dangers that might come with that. Disease, these different things that can come from other tribes. So it did serve a good evolutionary purpose, racisms at one time. But now they're just these irrational thoughts we have, and then we're supposed to allow our skepticism to engage in that and kind of just chuckle about it. And I think comedians do it best. Comedians make awesome jokes based on these initial knee-jerk reactions. Like we'll be driving down the road and it happens to be an Asian woman who cut us off, and we go drive by them and then we look over and we see that it's an Asian woman and we're like, "Oh yeah, classic Asian woman driver."
Yeah. I don't know. Me and like kind of going back and forth, like maybe we're not going to be on that one, but I just kind of wanted to say like about Joe Biden though, that definitely I don't know if I don't know if he's a pedophile, but I probably would say like definitely a sexual predator.
You think Joe Biden's a sexual predator?
Absolutely, Tara Reid. Like,
and how would you demonstrate that? Sorry.
Because Joe Biden was not even for releasing the investigation report that she reported in college. And
that doesn't make you a pedophile.
I didn't say pedophile, it's sexual.
Yeah, that
predator.
doesn't make you a sexual predator. That has to be demonstrated. Just because someone says, "I don't want this thing out," or this thing or that thing or whatever, it doesn't make you a sexual predator. You need evidence. Like if you're going to make a positive claim about someone, like Biden is a pedophile, Trump is a racist, you need evidence. Like, people just throw defamation, defamatory claims out willy-nilly. Famous people do it. It happens to me all the time. They throw out these defamation claims willy-nilly without evidence, and no one calls them enough. People ought to start suing people's ass for defamation for crap like this. Like, people going around saying Tom Hanks is a pedophile.
I mean, I'm not saying that. I mean,
No, I know
okay.
you're not saying that. I'm just saying that if you are going to label someone a pedophile or a racist, literally the worst things you could label someone, like Sam Harris gets this too. He gets labeled a racist, a white supremacist all the time by these fucktards who just don't like his reasoning, his ideas. So instead of engaging in the war of ideas with him, they just call him a white supremacist or a racist.
Well, about him being a sexual predator, though, like, you know, his her parents like called him Larry King before that. Why would they like call him before? Like, about like
So what
Tara Reid, like.
So let me ask you this, just to help you out of your confirmation conspiratorial loop here. What you're engaging in is conspiratorial line drawing. So you're finding things and you're like, well, what other reason could have been? That's an argument from ignorance fallacy, by the way. Like, if you can't, just because you can't come up with any other reason why it could be, it doesn't mean that the idea that you have started with stands until something else proves it wrong. That's not how we evaluate claims. You actually make your claim, and then you have to demonstrate your claim.
So, like, circumstantial evidence just doesn't mean anything, or
no, that's not what I said, and that would be a straw man, right? Of what I just said. So circumstantial evidence is still used in the court of law, and it, you know, we use it we take it with a grain of salt.
So, okay, what I'm saying is, so what I'm saying is there's things that are true that it can be found to be true, and then you would make a deduction on why it's true. It was reasonable to do that.
But you always have to start with, claims should always come from evidence. Like, you find, like the scientific method, you see something going on in reality, you pull that evidence out of reality, and you build a scientific model to demonstrate that. That's how we demonstrate claims. So if someone's to claim Australia does exist, that is an is claim. So let's test it. How would we demonstrate that Australia exists? Now, here's where cynicism comes in. Cynicism would be, if someone's never been to Australia, they would be like, well, because I've never been there, I have no way of knowing to 100% certainty that Australia exists. That's cynicism. What skepticism would be is to look at the full body of evidence to seek justification for the belief, or whatever the evidence the claim maker has brought to the table to demonstrate that Australia actually does exist.
Right. But what I'm saying is, so there's two things I'm arguing is true. One, that there very well could be a complaint made, filed in, and call it this claim one, and then claim two is the parent called in Larry King way before there's any kind of political motive at all.
Yeah, you're talking about possibility.
Okay,
possibility is not very interesting. Plausibility is.
But like, what I'm saying is, like, okay, so if it doesn't mean that he's trying to express any kind of information, what is the other conclusion?
It's better for you to say I don't know than to keep your unfounded claim as a placeholder. This is where people fuck up with skepticism all the time. They forget that I don't know is a position. It's like if someone comes out and makes a claim about someone, like a defamatory claim, Trump is a racist. Some people are like, well, what's the other side saying to disprove this claim? It's like, no. That's not how this works.
I mean, he didn't actually shoot down people and call them N-words. I mean, he didn't literally say those words. It's like,
what's that? Say that again. I didn't say, dude. I didn't say. It's just one example I gave. It's one example. Like, if someone calls me a white cracker, then that would be racist. Or if someone says, "Shut your mouth. You're a white cis male. You're not allowed to speak because of that." That's sexist and racist.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's lots of examples. I'm going to let you go for now, Ryan. I hope you do call back, but I want to get as many people in as possible, and I really appreciate your call.
Okay.
Thanks, brother.
Yep.
All right, guys, the lines are open. Thank you so much for the call by Ryan. I want to keep these rapid fire. I want to keep them fast. I want to keep the energy up. Okay, we got another call coming in. Hey, how's it going? You are on the Test Your Skepticism show.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're live.
Okay. You can hear me? You're right?
Yeah, you
Sorry,
bet.
I'm watching the stream live, and
Oh,
it's kind of
yeah,
disorienting
yeah.
hearing you answer my questions and then seeing your face move a second later.
Sorry, actually, just mute your YouTube stream. Keep it live, but just mute it.
I just did that. It just had a little bit of an echo effect.
Sweet. I heard a little delay when you called in, and I thought I was going to get Baba Booey, Howard Stern's penis, Baba Booey.
Yeah, that's that's always a problem. So I wanted to talk to you about just two things that I had first of all, I love your show. I love what you do. Skepticism,
Thank you.
always a great thing to have in a society. Challenge all authority type thing. And I wanted to just question you on two things. There's this tweet from you, maybe like a few days ago or a week ago.
Yep.
About Sam Harris, and you said you're about 2 steps away from calling from hoping that Trump dies of coronavirus when he was in the Walter Reed Hospital. And I feel like I don't know what spurred that, or if there was a kind of a spur of the moment emotional thing, but I just think that the way that you kind of seemed to criticize him was a little bit ridiculous. And in the end, I wrote a comment because you retweeted, you did the YouTube thing where you can post a picture, and you posted a tweet, and I put a comment in the comments, and I just said, because you said meditate on that at the end of it, and I just thought that was absolutely ridiculous the way that you handled that, and I kind of wanted to know the thought process behind that.
Yeah, sure. I'm actually going to pull up the tweet just so people have this.
Okay. Yeah.
In full context. I'm just pulling up Twitter right now, and because it does include what I had what I have been seeing from Sam Harris with regards to his
and I don't know if it was a series of tweets. I don't know if it was a series of tweets or anything, because I just saw the YouTube repost of it that you posted.
Right, you didn't see the Twitter lead up to that or anything.
I don't know any. I have no context of that at all. The context that I have in that is kind of it seems the evidence that I have makes it kind of. I'm just worried because I like your show a lot.
Well, don't get too worried, because Sam Harris can be criticized as well, right?
Well,
are you a big
course.
Sam Harris fan?
No, I think. Well, yes, I'm a fan of his, but I think that he can be a crybaby on Twitter. I think that's pretty much the only thing you can criticize him about. His political views are kind of salient, and he's a crybaby on Twitter. But I feel like the way you handled that was just out of clause, I guess.
Right, you did. Okay, cool. You thought it was too much. So let's go through it. So first, on September 27th, Sam tweets, "Imagine being the sort of person who would send this tweet while not paying taxes himself." And he's tweeting about Donald Trump's tweet that he said half of Americans don't pay income tax despite crippling government debt. And I thought this was a reckless, ridiculous tweet. So I said, did @real Donald Trump break the law? ?
And did he do anything immoral with the tweet?
Right. Yeah. Do something immoral. And I'm just reading this so that everyone listening has context. Do you think he owes more in taxes? ? He did pay taxes, but not as much as you think he should have paid. How much should he have paid, Sam Harris? ? What law needs to change if he did not break the law? ? So,
well, I think that the point that I had was that I think that it's less specific than that. I don't think he's saying that specifically, hey, he should have paid X amount more. It's less of a mathematical thing than a thematical and kind of moral thing. It's like. You look at that number, and then you look at the number that average Americans are paying, and you say, "Hey, there's a discrepancy here. This man is a multi-billion. He owns a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and he can use these loopholes to not pay a certain amount of taxes legally. I mean, those are all loopholes that accountants can do."
Hold on. Loophole is a term that gets thrown around very loosely. When people say
I'll rescind that.
Right.
There are strategies that an
Right.
accountant can use so that you naturally pay less taxes. But I'm saying,
right,
what
an
is this taking
accountant
away
that
from his
like Donald
company's
Trump
bottom
has
line?
a team. Donald Trump has a team of accountants, right? And the team
He's
of
got
accountants.
He's got the super team of accountants.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
A billion,
So
he's a billion,
right. So his
billionaire.
team of accountants are given instruction to do Donald Trump's taxes and to save him as much money as possible. Is that reasonable?
That's the point that he's trying to make. The point that Sam Harris
I'm just
was
talking as a matter of principle. Is that reasonable for a person to do that under the law?
From my experience.
Just what you think, like what people
No,
ought
'cause
to
the
do.
point that I'm
Like
making-
should
the point that
the
I'm ma-
law apply to everyone equally?
But the point that I'm making isn't about my personal experience of the validity of Sam's argument. I'm just saying that it was a reasonable criticism. Hey, this guy is a multi-billion-dollar. How much is paying X amount in taxes taking away from his bottom line realistically?
So
maybe,
I think
maybe that's a position that someone can take without being 2 steps away from saying that Donald Trump should die of coronavirus.
Well, it wasn't only that. There's more, right? So Sam has been the biggest embarrassment in the intellectual community from a perspective of Orange Man bad, Trump derangement syndrome. It literally, and I'll read more. So first of all, Sam says he didn't pay taxes, but he did pay taxes. So that's just something factually wrong about his tweet. And then
he didn't say that he didn't pay taxes. He said this is how much taxes he paid, and then he gave the reference so you could go look at it yourself.
Well, no,
I think that's completely reasonable.
In the tweet I responded to, just one sec. In the tweet I responded to, Sam says, "Imagine being the sort of person who would send this tweet while not paying taxes himself." And the tweet is just Donald Trump posting this article that came out in the Daily Mail in the UK saying that half of Americans don't pay income tax despite crippling government debt. And Donald Trump's comment with it was half of Americans don't pay income tax despite crippling government debt. But Donald Trump did pay his income tax.
Yes, but the point was that how much he paid. It's like I think that you're purposely mischaracterizing his argument.
No, I'm actually taking it earlier. I'm taking it literally. There's no straw man. If you think there's a straw man, point to it. Like
I'll point to it. Well, I'm saying. So you're talking about the validity of his argument that you think it's invalid. That's a completely fine position to take. The straw man was in your position where you claim that he's 2 steps away from saying that Trump should die of coronavirus.
I haven't got there yet.
And
I haven't got there yet.
Oh, in this tweet? No, I think that everything up to that point was completely. You had fine criticisms of him up to that point.
Okay, now
I just think that I think that it was a little bit childish to say that he should meditate over something and say that he's 2 steps away from wishing death on Donald Trump, which is literally against all of his points.
So that
he's ever made.
So that tweet happened, and then I tweeted after. Sam Harris tweeted, "Show us your tax returns, coward." That was the whole tweet. And then I said, Sam Harris is losing it, ... Oh, sorry, it's only 2 dots. How is showing one's tax returns an accurate depiction of one's cowardice? Do you agree with me there?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
That doesn't make much sense.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is only 2 of them. I believe there was some before. And then we go up to.
So your claim was more. You're saying he was 2 steps away was more about his hatred for Trump than actually legitimately in his criticism being 2 steps away.
Yeah, dude, it's hyperbolic. I'm not.
Okay.
Like it's hyperbole, and it's like. When I say he's 2 steps away from tweeting out that, maybe, and it wouldn't be him saying it exactly. It'd be saying like, maybe this is a gift, like just something like that. Even alluding to it, and many celebrities have done this. They've alluded to like, well, I guess you get what's coming to you. Good luck, I guess. You know,
Okay.
that hasn't been
Well,
everyone, but I'm
I mean,
saying that Sam was on the edge of alluding to that, and based on this
Okay.
progression
Well,
of lunacy in his tweets.
that makes a lot of more sense, and that's a lot more reasonable than the conclusion that I came to. I just don't know
Gotcha.
because it's when I'm looking at your kind of tweets and some of the criticisms of you online. I mean, I just see that like 5 days ago on your Twitter feed, you retweeted someone praising you for delivering their Sam Harris merch on time while you're actively, kind of having this spat with him online.
Oh yeah, no, look, the War of Ideas to me is open season, brother. Like if I disagree with Sam Harris, like Sam and I had a huge public falling out, which everyone's very aware of.
With the dissolution of your company, I guess.
Well, the reasons for that are outlined at thewarofideas.org, where I wrote my account of that, because people just take Sam Harris's word for whatever it seems like.
I also have that right here, and I think that your kind of argument against his is extremely pedantic. It's mostly about the words that he's using.
No,
it's actually what actually happened.
It's actually about abandoning your audience in New York City and trying to make everyone believe that it was bad man Pangburn that made it that he couldn't go, when his audience had already bought travel and spent money on hotels and everything. And then instead of working with me, Sam Harris started talking to all of the other conference attendees, the people who are going to be on stage, and we're convincing them to drop out, so making it impossible for me to give them any kind of conference whatsoever. It was completely and utter bullshit and cowardly for him to run away from his commitment. And he knew he was into a big commitment with me with this string of conferences, and he knew I was all in on them. So what the fuck was he doing? Some idiot was giving him some kind of advice that was completely batshit crazy, I think, because a thinking person would never do that to their audience.
That pretty much matches up with everything. I wanted to see what kind of response you had to that.
Yeah, I did.
That makes me definitely rethink some things, because everything adds up. It's like he says that people weren't getting paid, but the way that he characterizes the argument is not in the way that people actually get paid in real life. It's like things happen, and then you use money to make money, and then you
Sam was 100% right that I was late paying him for one event, but it was because it went catastrophically wrong, the amount of people we were able to attract to these events. And instead of doing the New Zealand event, all of these guys were talking about like how much money they could make, and I'm like, guys, can we just go to New Zealand and do the fucking event for these people, and we can make your speaker fees up later, like, because all four of these conferences are one big fucking investment that if they don't go through, like, Pangburn Philosophy had to go all in on them, and I was very clear with Sam and his team about this. But I don't know what was going on, but Eric Weinstein and Sam and a few other people were weeding around in the back, trying to convince people that I'm like this evil person. And he did a very good job. He turned a lot of his audience off of interacting with Pangburn stuff, like, up to this day. But that's why I released my article, because I wanted to outline for everyone in detail what my experience was there, because I didn't have any power. I'm just little tiny Travis Pangburn in Canada with his sole proprietorship or mini corporation company with hardly any funding, and literally is living or dying from event to event. So it's like, what am I supposed to do?
Okay, so but you did mention there that you said make up the fees later. So
sure,
I just want
I was trying to work with the speakers to say that, we are in a very, very tight, tough spot with what we have coming up and what we have for outstanding bills. So please work with us. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm given this fucking hardline date of like 3 days away, like I outlined in my article, of like, oh, Travis, we need this huge amount of money by now, or else we're pulling out of New York. And I'm like, what? Like, you
Okay,
realize people
okay.
have already booked and like booked travel and everything, and I didn't have the cash. Like, I think there was this belief, and it was an irrational belief. And if you look on Reddit close enough, people think that I'm some wealthy person and that I own jets and shit. And it's like, this was all just crap. Like, skepticism. Talk about skepticism. Like, holy fuck.
Yeah. So my question would be, do you personally think it was reasonable to question either the legitimacy or the reliability of their payment come the time after the get together or the talks? Do you think it was legitimate to question your reputability?
Absolutely not. A perfect look at the events that I've produced with Sam when we were working together, and then these fucking stupid ass music agents start treating them like rock stars or something, and they come in and start being like hard nosed with these things, not in the essence of what the war of ideas and intellectual discourse is all about. They come in and they just fucking torpedo my relationship with Sam. The money demands got ridiculous, just ridiculous. And Sam and I had a model that was working and it was building. I wasn't making a ton of money. I was making a little bit of money to help produce the next event as we're jumping from event to event, but all the money's going into Sam Harris's pocket. Like, I'm not making like, there's this illusion out there like I was making like all of the ton of fucking money.
I just haven't seen online. I haven't seen a concise representation of your points in a spoken format, other than your list of responses to Sam Harris's point.
Right. So I have talked about it lots, but because everyone kind of shut down and ran away from Pangburn because of what one guy said or a few guys' friends said, it's like I have talked about it. I've talked about it so many times. I've given resources. I've had my friends and family step up to help me. Try to show people that you shouldn't just listen to what one person or a group of people collectively say, like Pangburn bad, without giving any evidence. Like it's just. There were so many ways that we could have got through this process, this Sam Harris process and these conferences without having to fuck over a ton of people and without having to force me to fold Pangburn philosophy. It was terrible. It was terrible.
And okay, just a personal question to end off this conversation that was very enlightening. Thank you for having me. But just because you've mentioned that it was kind of these people and these either managers or people that represented these guys that kind of torpedoed the whole event and maybe kind of mischaracterized some things about it, would you maybe in the future be willing to try to hash it out or kind of come to some conclusion that isn't, what it is now, which is kind of this open gaping wound with anybody involved in that?
Yeah, 100%. And I've said that from the beginning. I would go on anyone's show. I would go anywhere to hash this out and to talk about it. And again, if we need to call it like a conversation with Travis Pangburn on business ethics, I don't care how like facetious the title would be. I just want people to know and understand the truth. And the truth is not as extreme and scary and dark web like people always want to believe for entertainment purposes. But this is part of the reason why I promote skepticism, man. It's like it's fine to say I don't know in circumstances until you get more information. And if you're sitting in this reality of confirmation bias and you're like, oh, I'm just going to believe this guy because he's my favorite intellectual and his friends back him up too. It's like, you're not a skeptic, you're a cynic.
Most definitely. And then just the last question, would you mind if I clipped that and shared it on some social media sites?
Dude, I hope you do. And I'm glad you asked these questions because getting this out in this kind of personable way maybe will be helpful to some. And I
feel like the intellectual dark web is kind of our last little barrier against the absolute just, dichotomy of just nasty people online and all these horrible people trying to stab each other with swords and knives all the time.
Yeah,
and this is our last little barrier, shield and defense, and the shield is fighting with itself. It's not an agreement, and it's hard sometimes for me to do these things when it's like Sam Harris is having spats with all these people. Brett Weinstein kind of sometimes has these crazy ideas about like a double presidency, and he's kind of trying to spread them. It's like, I feel like we really need at this point to come together and just mac this shit out, hit it out of the park, have some talks, and then find out
because you sound like someone that could help out a lot.
Most definitely on Instagram, Twitter.
Wherever, man, you'll find me, or jump into our Discord and send me a DM. It would be great to have you in the Discord.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you. I think you're right. You should read what I have to say about my criticisms of the intellectual dark web. It's at thewarofideas.org. I like to call this movement the intellectual warm blanket because I think it's more inviting, and I think it's easier access to
the intellectual double snuggie.
All right, thanks, brother.
Thanks. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, James. Oh, Jimothy. You're live, brother.
Oh man, how's it going? This is more of a congratulations on your new segment.
Thank you.
I'm glad War of Ideas, as you like to call it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate the kind words, and I hope we can on these Sundays hash out God and all kinds of stuff together, because I think you and I have excellent conversations about any kind of ideological war element.
Oh, maybe we're on mountains right now. So
what are you working on?
What is it? Yeah, it was a Maduro. It was a pretty good one.
I'm gonna have a little marijuana later, but thanks for calling in, brother.
Yep, no problem, man. Get out and have fun.
Yeah, thanks. That's James Jimothy. You guys know him. He's always in. Our line is open. When someone does call next, I will just wait for a second until the stream gets repaired here. Yeah, it's dipping in and out. Yeah, it kind of is a dropped frame. Interesting. I'm going to close Twitter and SoundCloud, and I'm going to close... Well, I'll leave that open. Oh, it is saying it's dropping frames here. Oh, interesting. Oh, that seems to have gotten it back on track, I think. I might have to close StreamYard. Maybe I should... Yeah, it's dipping again. Oh, man. Anyways, the lines are open, guys. Anyone who wants to jump in, feel free to call. Hit that like button on the stream. It really helps out the channel. Make sure you subscribe. But more importantly, even, hit the notifications show. Yes, Kaizen. Looks like... Okay, I'm gonna close StreamYard just to see if this helps repair. Oh, I had my... We'll get through it here. I'm going to try disconnecting and reconnecting. Thank you to those who called already. The first call was great too. That, maybe Sunday is a very... Yeah, so again, guys, this actually... let's see. We might have repair. I think we're good. Okay, now I think we're good. Yeah. 5,000 kilobytes. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. So yeah, guys, the number is 1-940-580-2114. Please call in the number. We are live and it is open. I actually can merge calls as well on here if people wanted to try to double team this shit. But yeah, it's cool. Yeah, and feel free to talk to me about anything. All right, we got someone calling here. All right, you are on the Test Your Skepticism show. How's it going?
Good. This is Scott.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing today?
Good. What do you have for me?
So what is it? Trump is not a racist. Biden is not a pedophile. Is that the general idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can talk about any topic you want. Skepticism really does or should touch everything in one's life. But yeah, those are some prompts I have. Trump is not a racist. Biden is not a pedophile, and I'm an atheist.
See, I mean, for the Trump is not a racist. I don't think he's like a Turner Diaries racist, but I think he's like, you know, anybody who's 74 years old kind of racist. if you know what I mean.
Right, because like those, I know what you mean, that there is this it seems to be like, even in like my hometown where I grew up, if they're from like a blue collar upbringing and they happen to be white and they you know, and they grow up and they haven't engaged much with the outside world, with the internet and things like that, you will probably find thicker levels of racism in those generations, just because that's the era that they grew up in.
Yeah, and I would attribute that mostly to just ignorance of not having, you know, experiences that made them think otherwise.
Right.
You know?
So, and I would say, like, if you're going to label someone that, if you're going to outright label someone a racist, you need evidence for that. So if someone's like, you know, and there's a lot of crap that gets given as evidence, like, oh, well, one of Donald Trump's managers made this call to not rent to these black people this one time, and then I'm like, okay, turn your skepticism on and think about what you think I'm going to say to that.
Yeah, exactly. Because he wasn't doing anything with any of that. What he was doing was trying to get laid in fucking New York City, throw a buddy around.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's one of those things. So like, I don't know. I grew up in the '80s, and what's the term nowadays for kids if you go and ring somebody's doorbell and run away?
Nicky nine doors.
See, for me growing up, it was inward knocking.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. In the South, in the '80s, that's what it was called.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Michaela says ding dong ditch in the
Yeah, that's what people say now.
Oh, okay.
Or like we're sitting crisscross applesauce. We used to call it sitting Indian style, which is it's not acceptable anymore.
Fucking cancel culture. Yeah, and then people just throw out like Biden is a pedophile, and I'm like, why do you think he's a pedophile? Then they see me a gif of him like kissing a young like child in the back of the head, and then I'm like, well, that's not evidence that he's a pedophile. You might be able to make the argument that he is one of those people that has very open boundaries and sometimes pushes that onto people. Like, I think we all know those people. Like, some people that have no boundaries, like they're very huggy and touchy and kissy and whatever. Like, I get kissed on the cheek still by people, like when I say hi, and I'm like, that's a little much, but I'm usually like okay with it. And then I think people's disgust factor kicks in because they're not used to seeing elderly people interact with like grandchildren or children or young children like that. And yeah, it's like, it's not something I have an impulse to do, but it doesn't make him a pedophile.
Yeah, and sort of I saw this actually like 2 weeks ago, something about that, like little redhead girl. And apparently, like, I guess she was there and she performed. She's a singer and she performed for him or something. Right. And it got turned into this, like, whole thing because, I don't know, like, it's one of those things. Like, I see it as being wholly political. When people are like, yeah, Trump's a racist, this, that, and the other. I don't see that any different than when Trump was calling Obama the creator of ISIS, or fucking, you know, the founder of the fucking Muslim Brotherhood, or some fucking crazy nonsense like that, you know.
Yeah, those old people say some weird shit. Well, as long as you keep voting in a 75-year-old into the office, like, what do you expect?
Exactly.
What do you expect?
Honestly, at this point, I imagine maybe in like 10, 15 years, we're going to be like voting in 85-year-olds.
just a fucking 90-year-old who's definitely going to die. Because America, being the entertainment nation that they are, they just want to see the first president to die of old age.
The one every sentence he starts with, well, back in my day.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, back in my day of business, this wouldn't be accepted. They would be out on their ass. We would knock the crap out of them.
See, I sort of have the same thing though with like I don't know, everything you see on social media about I mean even things like cancel culture. I think it just gets so blown out of proportion, or like free speech on college. You look at all the people who've had things happen to them, and then you go and they're like, yeah, we got fucking raided, or people just started smashing us on Twitter. Right. And you look at, what is it, like 50,000 people? Like that is not indicative of the way the culture actually is. That's 50,000 fucking people acting like assholes.
Right. It's people do get wrapped up in this, like, wow, society. They'll watch the news where they'll be showing some Antifa turd and some Proud Boys turd fighting, and yep. You know, typically I think the inciter of the people that are inciting violence are on the left side of the political spectrum. But people will see this happening, and then they'll shake their head, and this is where skepticism needs to come in. They'll shake their head and say, wow, society is really on a decline. It's like, no, it's not. You're watching just a small group of people in Portland being dorks. Like
exactly.
It's not. This isn't indicative of the great. Most people are out fucking working and trying to support their families, and they don't have time for all this like poo flinging. If they want that, they'll buy a ticket and go watch UFC.
yeah, WWE.
that one's even better for the shit slinging. Let me tell you, brother, I'm coming for you. That's going to be the next thing. Hulk Hogan for president.
What is it? Hector Macho Camacho Mountain Dew from Idiocracy. Do you remember that movie?
Oh my God, yes.
So I mean, I feel the same way with like people who like freak out about like cultural appropriation.
Right.
Who's actually freaking out about this kind of stuff? To me, it seems that you know, in the United States right now, we can go and have sushi. We can go have Chinese food. We can go to have Indian food. It's not cultural appropriation. That's just the way the world works. Yeah. Like over time,
I call it sharing.
Yeah.
You know, kindergarten, we learn this. People should share with one another. You grow that out. You take that mentality out into the globe, and you're like, yeah, let's share. And then some idiot, they tend to have a very brightly colored dyed head, says, you shouldn't be doing that. And then I'm like, why? Because it offends me. Why does it offend you? It just does.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll let you go, Scott. I really appreciate the call, brother, and I appreciate the laugh.
Absolutely, man. Talk later.
Have a good one. That's Scott, everyone. Scott always knows how to tickle my fancy. The lines are open, folks, and we're here for a short time, not a long time. I don't want to keep these shows going too long. These needs to be rapid fire. Dial it, folks. 1-940-580-2114. How are we doing in chat here? Jack Henry Biggin says, I'd urge anyone to watch a Trump rally once normally, and secondly, from the perspective that he is patronizing his audience, and see how your opinion changes. Interesting. We got another call coming in. Hello, you've reached the Test Your Skepticism hotline.
Hi, Travis.
Is this Michaela?
It is. I want to talk to you about nihilism.
Oh, yes. Okay. Hit me.
So, I am a nihilistic absurdist, i.e., I observe that there is no intrinsic meaning in life, and yet I still seek to find it. You disagree with my assertion that I am a nihilist, correct?
Yeah. I think you're pretty damn close to what I am, just a skeptic wanting to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible.
How is that incompatible with?
I think you're attaching yourself to an unnecessary label, girl. There's already too many labels. You're just a skeptic human.
But I'm quite curious as to why you think that, because it is a very helpful label when explaining my worldview to someone, and
it's not helpful because nihilism. You have to understand like the baggage that nihilism carries with it. It's like we could just eradicate atheism because it has all this baggage and crap and whatever, but we can't really because the God thing is still a thing and we kind of need it. But with nihilism, it's like it's a more it's not based on a position. It's based on like some like claimed traits about the person. And I guess I would say like, what are those claimed traits and why don't you just?
It is based on a position.
It's based on what? Sorry.
It's based on a position. It's not based on traits. It's based on a clear stated position of evaluating the way things are and the way that we, the position that we find ourselves in relative to the way things are.
Right. So this is a problem I have with sexual identity or gender identity. If there's too many labels, it just doesn't mean anything. Just like the term God really is such like a fluid term. It's just like, what does God mean to you? God is energy. It's like, wow, this term is getting more useless by the day. So I like people to err on the side of wearing less labels, starting with, okay, I am starting with the is aspect of I am a human. Okay. What do you believe and why about the world? Well, I just rely on these systems to tell me what is. Okay. Do you believe in God? No, I haven't been convinced by any of the God claims. Okay. So you're an atheist. And then my thing, and then
relying on a system, and there's a difference between relying on a system and naming the system in order to clearly communicate what it is that you believe and accept about the nature of things.
So nihilism is what then?
I mean, nihilism is the realization of, or I guess the belief, if you don't think it's true, then you can't really realize it to be true, the position that life has no intrinsic meaning. There's nothing about life that means it's valuable just for the fact that it exists.
I think you're using nihilism in a non-colloquial way. That is not what people, when people talk about nihilism, like when Jordan Peterson talks about nihilism, when the clinical psychological community talks about nihilism, when the scientific community talks about nihilism, when Sam Harris talks about nihilism, when they're speaking of nihilism to carry with it a certain sense of negative baggage. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. That's why I add the caveat nihilistic absurdist, because I mean you've read the Mythicist.
It's a bad term, Michaela, because you have to add a caveat.
No, it's not. It's not a bad term. That's like saying that's like saying I'm an agnostic atheist. Is that a bad term because I added the caveat of agnostic?
No. The caveat doesn't need to be there for atheism. It doesn't need to be there, but people can say, I'm going to add something to atheism. No.
It's important because you can be a Gnostic atheist or an agnostic atheist, and those two positions are very different.
You can, but you don't. You can just stick with pure atheism. Atheism is simply just sitting in a state of non-belief when it comes to God claims. It's that's all it is. You don't need to talk about Gnosticism or agnosticism or anything else. Atheism just needs that. But like when I'm looking at the way nihilism is used colloquially, like in intellectualism versus the way you're using it, something is not computing there. And I think what you should do is look at the usage here and see if that the way the term's actually used is best describing who you are. Because when you proclaim, I'm a nihilistic absurdist, my reaction when I think about this, and I think about you and what I see, the evidence of reality, you are not embodying what my understanding of nihilism to be. And I think my understanding of nihilism would be the colloquial understanding.
But the thing is that you only see the parts of me that I allow you to see, right? If you were to read my manuscript or like read my journal, you see pretty quickly, oh shit, you know, this person is clearly a nihilist, you know. So I think it's a little bit unfair to make judgments about what I do and do not hold to based off of incomplete evidence.
Well, I would say demonstrate that you're a nihilist, and if you're using a definition of nihilism that isn't colloquial, then the problem is potentially with the term you are choosing to use or the label you are choosing to use, not with everyone else.
But it's like nihilism doesn't automatically mean hopelessness and despair. It just doesn't.
I know it doesn't mean necessarily mean hopelessness and despair, but it does. Nihilism does very quickly lead to cynicism about like, oh well, I guess we can't know anything about anything, so anything is fair game. It's like that's what pure cynicism and pure nihilism would look like. You know?
Okay.
All right, but I appreciate the call, Michaela, and you rock as always, and you're like such a great intern and amazing.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Thanks for the call, girl.
All right, bye.
Travis just called her a girl because she's a woman. He's sexist. All right, the lines are still open, guys. I want to hear from you. Call me. Make sure you hit the like button on this stream. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell because YouTube hates us. Oh my God, it's another one. Hello, you've reached the Test Your Skepticism hotline.
Oh, what's up, Travis?
Hey, how's it going?
It's cousin.
Oh, hey, cousin. What do you got for me today?
What's going on? All right. Well, what do you think of antinatalism?
Antinatalism? Well, someone can. This is one of those things where someone's pleasure drive may not be in tune to, or it may not be driving them towards wanting to have children. But just like being anti-black or anti-white or whatever, you should apply your skepticism to that and say, okay, this might be a thing that exists in my mind. Let's analyze it. Why would I be anti-procreation? Because that's what we're talking about, right? Is that what you mean by anti-nihilism or anti-natalism?
I'm talking about it from more of a philosophical perspective, from the premise that life is full of suffering and we want to mitigate suffering, therefore bringing someone into existence.
Yeah, and this is where it falls apart. Someone's moral system should not be to mitigate suffering. It should be to maximize well-being for yourself and those around you. Because if you go down the mitigating suffering line, you're going to find yourself with a gun in hand, finding reasonable justification to shoot many people in the head.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but like the whole well-being notion, isn't that just no suffering?
No.
Isn't the notion of well-being just zero suffering?
No, because there's many different ways to be well, and there's many different ways to suffer, and sometimes suffering to one person may actually be some kind of wellness. For instance, if you're like, if you feel like you're in pain and you're suffering when you're being spanked while you're having sex, to some people that is not suffering at all. That's making them feel very, that's improving their well-being, their sexual experience. So yeah, it for the reason I just outlined before that is the reason why I don't attempt to mitigate suffering. I seek to maximize well-being. I think it's a more proactive approach as opposed to a defensive approach, defending against suffering. I think we ought to be proactive and promote well-being, and we already do that in the medical community, in the scientific community. All of medicine is based on maximizing well-being for the patient.
I see where you're coming from now.
Because
so
here's the thing. Like, if someone has from a minimizing suffering perspective, if someone has a 95% chance of death with whatever illness they have, that calculation, that suffering model or minimizing suffering may tell you like, oh, there's only 5% chance. Should we just stop the suffering now? Someone cannot be well if they're dead. So I say, maximize well-being for as long as you possibly can.
Okay, yeah, I see your point there. So then would you say death is intrinsically bad then? Because it takes away from well-being, from the capacity to achieve well-being?
Death is part of the measuring process. So we look at someone's well-being and we say, oh, okay, it would be completely antithetical to their well-being for me to chop their head off, because a dead person cannot be well if they're dead. Death, and it shouldn't be looked at as death avoidance, but maximizing the wellness of your life. If we start going down the death avoidance route, then you see people fall into this survival worry, this fight or flight type existence that is not what we would call well from like a clinical standpoint. Like, we wouldn't call that person well if they're walking around worried about everything that could kill them. They can't get into a car. They can't get into a train. They can't go outside because there's germs everywhere. They can't even live within their own body now. There's just stuff happening. I can't stand it. It just and again, I think that's another argument as to why we need to focus on maximizing being well as opposed to avoidance of suffering or avoidance of death.
Okay, yeah, I see your point then. All right, that's all I got then.
Okay, right. Awesome. Today. Cool. Kaizen, thanks a lot, buddy.
All right, have a good day.
Yep. All right, guys, that was awesome. We just heard from Kaizen. He's the best Kaizen. I've never met another Kaizen like him or ever before. The phone lines are open. I will take a few more calls, guys. A few more calls. The stream isn't getting too long. There is a bit of intro there. Yeah, this is awesome. So I started with Trump is not a racist. Biden is not a pedophile. I'm an atheist. And people, here's something where people will make a mistake. They'll say, Trump is not a racist. You don't know that for sure. I know that Trump is not a racist just as much as I know that you are not a racist. Do I know that for sure? No. But don't fall into cynicism. It's very attractive. I say Biden is not a pedophile. You don't know that he's not a pedophile for sure. Correct. But I can still make that claim in a colloquial way. I can still make that claim about you. Let's say we got Scott in the chat. Scott is not a pedophile. Oh, well, you don't know that for sure. Sure, I don't know it for sure. But we shouldn't be running around labeling people pedophiles and racists unless you have some fucking evidence. Like people do with Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is a pedophile. He became a Greek citizen so that he could avoid being charged. No, his wife is from Greece. They became they became honorary Greek citizens because of their contributions to where they live and their relationship with Greece. And yeah, if people just read a little further, got off this QAnon or whatever this nonsense thing is, and nonsense machine, nonsense wagon. If they just you know, did a little bit. But you have to have skepticism in your life. These people who get sucked into conspiracy theory, they think they're engaging in skepticism. These are the people that sit down and say, "Oh, I'm a skeptic. I'm a huge skeptic, man. I am so skeptical that the government about the government, and I know they have aliens. They have them. They have the bodies. I better turn off my phone all the time because the government could be listening to me." Yeah. That's what we call cynicism. It's not skepticism. That heavy breathing kind of made my head light. Yeah, I'll leave the line open for a little bit more here. If you guys want to call in, we can talk about anything. Because skepticism relates to everything. Everyone needs to develop their skeptical foundation until you have a solid foundation in skepticism. A solid foundation. When you have this urge to lash out at someone or to spread hate online about someone, just to be hateful in general, you're in this back and forth and you're caught up in it. No, you suck. No, you suck. No, your mom sucks. No, your mom sucks. Skepticism is, you can actually use it to analyze these things that are going on before they come out. You can catch yourself and you can enjoy noticing how what I call your pleasure drive is driving and selecting and being affected by your software, your environment, and I mean within your mind. It's a beautiful thing. Meditation is great for this. Being into, trying to clear your mind and trying to predict the next thought that will pop into your mind. You can't do it. It's an amazing thing. It's happening to us, folks. We are not dictating it. Okay, well, I think we're going to call the show there for today. I really appreciate you guys. Please hit the like button again, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You have to hit that bell. YouTube will never show you our live streams. Never, never. They won't do it. We got 90,000 people on here, and apparently YouTube has eliminated all of the fucking bots that people buy and send them to my social media accounts everywhere. Because everyone hates Travis Pangburn. Hashtag Pangburn derangement syndrome. I call it that. If you see it pop up, Pangburn derangement syndrome. Yeah, and I have no time for hate or defamation. These things, defamation and hate, this stuff can be, go after it. Go after that stuff. Don't just accept that people are allowed to spread defamation about one another. Go to war with it. But I really enjoyed this first show. Thank you so much to the people that called in. There were some great calls. Michaela, we definitely have some clips to grab from this. And yeah, this has been Test Your Skepticism, Episode 1. Woohoo! Please join us in the Discord. The Discord link is in the description of this video. We have a lot of fun in Discord, joke around, lots of different discussions all the time. It's easy access to myself. If you have a question for me, we have an Ask Trav text section in there, and we have a lot of features, and we're also updating the Discord as we move along. There's a lot of opportunity to help out with Pangburn as well. If you're interested in a career, moving into something, or just helping out as a volunteer, or just engaging more with the brand, just get in touch with me. But yeah, I'd love to work with you guys and have you on board. So thank you so much. This has been Test Your Skepticism, and as always, let art and science inspire. Thanks, guys.